Let me just check and make sure it's working fine. Just a second. Let me just check and make sure it's working fine. Okay, seems like we're good to go. All right. So let's jump into this testimony. And because trial is over for the day, so we should be able to get through this in rapid fire. And you'll see the part that I'm talking with you all about regarding possibly Jay-Z, Beyonce, but hopefully not. Okay. All right. So it started this morning with the judge just saying, of course, good morning. And the defense is up and running the testimony again. She said, let's look at your message where you said, I feel as your lover. I wanted to please you, push you through. Was that you really? Was what you really wanted was a cuddle from Mr. Combs? Jane said yes. The defense attorney said, let's talk about the mobile TV you got for him. It was an LG cordless TV that you could move around and you could see movies on it, correct? Jane said yes. After Cassie's lawsuit went public, how did you feel? Jane said, finding out that another woman had the same experience as I had, I put out that energy on him. He was already down. So I felt resentment. Everything was hard at that point. Here we go again, y'all. Jane is upset because not because of their hotel nights, but when she saw what was in Cassie's lawsuit, she said, so hold up. You mean the things we were doing? You were also doing those things with somebody else? I thought this was a we thing. I thought this was an us thing. So yet again, Jane on what, day 4 or 5, is still making it very clear that her biggest beef was with the other women. Defense attorney said, you had a hard month. Jane said yes. And defense says, let's play an audio note. And this is Diddy talking. I don't want to be in a relationship like this. I don't want to make anyone feel like this. Let's end this cycle so you don't feel like I wasted your life. Any more messages like this? Jane said yes. Defense attorney said, did Sean often tell you that he was someone who focused on finding solutions? Jane said yes. You mentioned that you endured a lot in those situations and asked not to be dismissed. In response, he said he would never dismiss you, right? Jane said yes. You wrote that you wanted $100,000 for each year you felt was wasted. In total, $450,000. That was your message, right? Jane said yes. You mentioned having thoughts of self harm, and he responded by telling you not to, saying he cared. Jane said, I'm not sure about that. Which part are you not sure about, Jane? Are you not sure that you mentioned you wanted to unalive yourself, or are you not sure that he cared? Which one is it? Okay. Defense attorney said, you mentioned not having friends during that period. The prosecution objects. Defense said, let me rephrase. You said you shared your feelings with Sean because you didn't have others to talk to. Jane said, okay. And Sean continued to pay your rent? She said, yes. You said you received $9,000 from Bear, someone you knew since your modeling days, correct? She said, yes. Did you do any work in exchange for that $9,000? Jane said, no. Was the rapper you referred to close to Mr. Combs? She said, yes. Here we go, y'all. Was the rapper you referred to close to Mr. Combs? This is the rapper that was at the party in January 2024 in Las Vegas, the one that Jane went to with some other rapper and his girlfriend or wife. A video is shown to the jury, but there's no sound. Defense attorney, Sean and this rapper recorded together. Is he an icon in the musical industry? Jane said yes. Were you aware that Anton was with this rapper and his girlfriend slash wife when you went to a birthday party with them? Now, you know who else this could be? I'm going to have to look it up. I hate to think it because one person is not with us anymore. But could this possibly be Nipsey and Lauren London? Because we would consider Nipsey an icon, and pretty much also connected to his tragic end. And Lauren London was a girlfriend slash wife. They were never actually married, but you know how we put that together. So maybe it's them. Maybe it's them. Okay, let me stop speculating because I know the internet is already on this job. So again, the defense attorney said, "Were you aware that Anton was with this rapper and his girlfriend wife when you went to a birthday party with them? When Anton was having sex with the woman, how many people were in the room?" She said around 7 or 8. They were just watching. "The rapper was flirting with you, right?" She said, "Yes." "You exposed your breasts to the room. Did someone ask you to do that?" Jane said, "No, it just happened in the moment." "Oh, Jane, girl, you are something. What did the rapper say to you?" "He said he had always wanted to sleep with me." "So he had a crush on you?" Jane said, "Yes." "How did Cabral come into the conversation?" "They asked if I knew anyone else involved in that lifestyle. I said yes. At the time, I believed Cabral was trustworthy." "They? Were you referring to the rapper and his partner when you said that?" She said, "Yes." "Why do you think they asked?" She said, "They have sensed the vibe or heard that Sean and I were involved in that lifestyle." "You flew to Miami around your birthday, right?" Jane said, "Yes." "And he organized an extravagant birthday celebration for you?" Jane said, "Yes." "Were there candles along the walkway?" Jane said, "Yes, it was very romantic. His heart was racing." How she knew his heart was racing? "Was yours racing too?" She said, "Yes." Maybe the hearts were racing from some kind of drugs. Jane said, "Yes." Was about to say that everything was decorated in pink and silver. Jane said, "There was a 5-course dinner, exactly what I wanted from someone I loved." The defense said, "Was ecstasy taken during the dinner?" Jane said, "No." But afterward, you both took a pill and then Don came over?" Jane said, "Yes," at 1 star. "You said you agreed to have sex with Don because of the birthday celebration?" She said, "Yes, it was a really nice evening. I am telling you all for the umpteenth time, as it relates to these quote unquote hotel nights, aka freak offs, Jane is not a victim. She's not. Yes, it was a really nice evening. The defense shows her a message. Was this between you and Paul Arthur, where you asked him about his plans for Valentine's Day? Jane said, "Right." She said, the defense attorney said, "You mentioned wanting to see Paul as a real person." Jane said, "Yes." "And after Cassie's lawsuit, you noticed changes in Sean?" Jane said, "Yes." "You said Sean used to message you saying, 'I'm single, I'm polyamorous,' and that was painful for you?" Jane said, "Yes." "But after the lawsuit, he started saying things like, 'We're in a relationship, you're my girlfriend,' and that meant a lot to you." Jane said it did. Now, see, I thought at this time when the defense said that, I'm like, okay, now is this the defense or the prosecution? Does that not look like if Diddy all of a sudden after Cassie's lawsuit started saying to her, "You're my girlfriend, we're in a relationship," it not sound like he's doing that to try to cover his tracks because he didn't need somebody else filing a lawsuit because he knew the same type of activities he was in with Cassie, he was also doing it with Jane? I mean, it doesn't sound like the timing is very convenient for Diddy is what I would say. So I was a little I was just like, "Okay, defense, what's the strategy with that question?" So let's continue. Defense attorney said, "Did you feel sick when you saw the video of Mr. Combs laying hands on Cassie?" She said, "Yes, I did." "That was not the man that you knew, right?" She said, "That's right." Then there's a sidebar. Were you still in contact with Sean after the video? Jane said yes. Did you stay with him in Miami before leaving? She said yes. Did you notice any changes in how Sean treated you? She said yes. He was more loving, spent more quality time with me. And how did that affect your feelings toward him? My feelings deepened. Would you say there was a growth in the relationship? Jane said, yes, we experienced some growth. He flew to LA in June with his kids, right? Jane said, yes. Would you agree that Mr. Combs posted about that road trip with his children on social media? Jane said, yes. This photo shows how the house was set up, some of it arranged by you, some by Jonathan. She said, yes. And this here's a large bottle of, it's a brand of champagne. She said, yes. Jane confirmed that 8:30 p.m. she was drinking champagne on the patio with candles and music playing. No ecstasy yet, just tequila. Half an hour later, she and Combs were fighting. She admitted calling him a pedophile, knowing the girl wasn't underage. Jane admitted to pushing Combs' head into the counter and throwing a candle at him, her first physical altercation with him. She used a button lock on the door, not a physical one. He yelled that she was crazy, then she hid in the closet. Now she testified about this yesterday, and she said when she hid in the master bedroom, she said did it kick the doors off the hinges. She ran and she hid in the master bathroom. She said did it kick those doors down. I don't mean to laugh at Jane, but Jane. Okay. The defense attorney said, "You're serious about your workouts, right?" Jane said, "Yes." But instead of wearing workout clothes that day, you put on a dress. Why was that? She said it was just easier to slip on. The defense attorney said, "At that point, Sean had not touched you, correct?" He said, "Are you not just not going to talk to me?" Yes, that's what he kept saying. Okay, hold on. I think I skipped my part. Here you go. Yes, that's what he kept saying. And then he kicked open the master bedroom door. So I told you, she said he came through there like the Hulk. She said, yes, and I ran into the master bathroom and locked the door. What happened then? What did you say? I screamed that I hated him and that I wanted him to leave me alone. Do you remember what he said in response? He was yelling that I was crazy and kept shouting, "You're not going to not talk to me." After the fight, you ran and hid behind the wall. Where was your phone? Jane said it was still inside the house. When you went back, did you see Mr. Combs? She said, yes, he was outside on the street. Now, according to her testimony earlier, too, when she said she hid outside, she said she was hid outside for 2 hours. And when she came back to the house, she was hoping that Diddy would be gone by then, but he was standing outside and he was still mad. She said, defense attorney said that was hours later. Jane said it was. You were yelling, angry, and called him a pedophile. Jane said, I called him a monster. But he didn't kick you again. She said, no, he didn't. That's a strange question. Okay. You hit him in the back of the head and then he hit you? She said, yes, he punched me twice. The judge calls for a break. Now, in her testimony yesterday, when she talked about the same thing, because she's talking about the same thing again today, she said that Diddy was bending down, tying his shoe, and she pushed his head into a marble countertop, and then she threw lit candles on him and glasses. She threw glasses at him. Then he came after her. Do with that information what you will. The judge requests for lead counsel and Jane's attorney to go to the Robin. Okay. We know what was happening there. But for you all that's just joining, let me tell you what was happening when they went into this robing room. Diddy's team wants all the names of the famous people who were standing around watching Anton, one of the sex workers, have sex with a woman at this hotel in Las Vegas. They want all the names released. Now, keep in mind, Diddy wasn't at that party. This is a party that Jane went to with another rapper that she said is an icon. She went to that party with that rapper and his girlfriend/wife, is how they've been wording it. They said, would you say this person is very close to Diddy? She said, yes. Would you say this person is an icon in the music industry? She said, yes. And supposedly she went on their private plane to this party in Las Vegas where she saw Anton. who was also an S worker that she and Diddy would use. So Diddy's defense team wants all of the famous people involved in that situation. They want all of that to be fully public. And like I said earlier, that is when, or we have now arrived at the part in the program where Diddy is willing to burn this house down to the ground and take everybody with him because he said, I want you to name the famous rapper. I want you to name the famous rapper's girlfriend slash wife. I want you to name the 7 or 8 famous people who were standing around watching the sex act. And the judge said no. The judge said no, he would not allow that. He said because that information is not material to the S trafficking charge against Combs because he wasn't even at that party. That was a party that Jane went to. So we'll see if that comes up again later. All right. So let's see. Okay, Jane is back as well as the jury. Whatever will be played on the headphones to them won't be heard by the rest through the court will be though the court will be silent in order for them to hear clearly. Okay. During the argument, did Sean shout that you were trying to make him never see his children again? She said yes. And you said he was pulling you by your hair? She said yes. I kept telling him to stop. At some point you took his phone. Jane said, yeah, I took it. The defense said, you called the woman in Miami, correct? She said, yes. You asked her, did you go to the Grand Canyon with him? I'm asking you, woman to woman. Jane said, yeah, I did that. She responded, you're worrying about the wrong things, woman to woman, correct? Good ass question. You are worried about the wrong things. You are currently in a situation, according to your testimony, where you and Diddy are actually fighting. Fighting. You've pushed his head into a marble countertop. He done put you into a chokehold and knocked down 2 set of doors in the house, kicked them out, kicked them down. And you are on the phone with the other woman that you are concerned about and jealous of, and you want to know, hey, did y'all go to the Grand Canyon? Did y'all? And the defense attorney say, you're worrying about the wrong things. Woman to woman, correct? Jane said, yes. Jane said, I told her he's beating me up. Then Sean ended the call. She kept calling back. His phone kept lighting up. Did she call you a B? Jane said, yes. Did you mention her past relationships? Jane said, maybe. After you called Jonathan, you were in the shower and naked while Mr. Combs was wearing pants. She said shorts. Now, these shorts, y'all, that's tricky too. Because Jane has also testified that there are some shorts that she would go and buy for Diddy and the other men who were going to be a part of the hotel night because that was more attractive to her. She didn't like normally what they might wear as underwear. So she had these particular types of shorts she would buy because she wanted them to wear those. Okay, moving right along. The defense attorney said, and you called him a son of a B? She said, just a B. All right, just a B. And then he slapped you. She said, yes, hard. The defense attorney said, did he tell you to put on an outfit? She said, yes. Did he take your phone? She said, yes. He went through my messages and typed hi to Anton in our text thread. Was that the night in January you sent him to Las Vegas? Jane said, yes. How far was the entrance gate to your house in the gated community? About a minute or two. So roughly half a mile. Jane said, yes, I drove and let Anton in. Were there champagne and tequila, but still no drugs involved? Jane said, yes. When you and Sean went into the bedroom, did you tell him you went to Vegas? She said, yes. Did you tell him you flashed your breast? She said, well, no, I ain't telling that. Not at that point. I ain't telling that, what you want. I mean, I done pushed his head into the countertop. He could put me in the chokehold, what you want. That might be saying a little bit too much in the moment. Did you mention that you referred Cabral to the other rapper? She said, not yet. Did Mr. Combs yell at you? How could you go to another man's freak off? She said, yes, he yelled that. Then you said Sean told you, go out and F him. And you said no. She said, I said no. Then he pushed a pill in my face. But you didn't have S with Anton. She said, not that kind of S. You gave Anton oral S. She said, yes. Then Sean dismissed him, and you told Anton you'd send him the money later. She said, I did. This was the first time you didn't have an intimate moment with your partner after the entertainer left. She said, yes. And he said again, I can't believe you went to another man's freak off. So when she keeps saying, Diddy said, I can't believe you went to another man's freak off. That is that rapper that she said is an icon, and his wife, girlfriend / wife is how I've seen it written. I don't know if they're writing it that way to throw us off, or if it's one of those situations where the people have been together so long they're not married, but people call them the wife anyway. Because that's what made me say, if this is not Jay-Z and Beyonce, and I hope it's not, was it Nipsey and Lauren back then? Because they did have a relationship with Diddy, and Diddy and Nipsey did make music together, and that was one of the questions that Jane is going to be asked. Just trying to piece it together, okay? So again, Diddy is upset that you have went to another man's freak off. Now, when you at my freak off, I'll freak off. Diddy's position is, I don't care if I roll through 5 ninjas up in here. That's ours. But now you have attended the freak off of some other ninja, and I feel away. So he about as batshit crazy as Jane is. Well, we already know that it's batshit crazy, but because she was offended when she read Cassie's lawsuit. That hold up. You mean to tell me you were doing all this stuff with Cassie, the same things we were doing? I thought this was just us. I thought we were just the freaks. That offended her. She ain't like that. So quite frankly, these two might have been made for each other because they are both bat crazy, toxic, violent to each other. But I'll continue. Let me rein it in. So again, the defense attorney said, I can't believe that Diddy said, I can't believe you went to another man's freak off. Jane said, yes. He was referring to that rapper. Jane said, yes. When you saw Mr. Combs traveling with another woman in Wyoming, did that upset you? Jane said, yes, because I was at home with a black eye. You had not had forced sex with Anton, correct? She said, no, it was forced oral sex. The jury wears the headphones as a video is shown to them. I will read his response. Mr. Combs said, I'm not going to belittle myself for someone named Bear or for my friend. Was he referring to the rapper? She said, yes. Let me read that again, because I'm going to tell you, I need some context clues. I already know the internet is on this job, and this is about to be ugly for whoever this rapper could be. But let me just read this again. This is what Combs said in this message or video. I'm not going to belittle myself for someone named Bear or for my friend. Was he referring to the rapper? She said, yes. Mr. Combs said again, sorry I didn't take you on trips. I was tripping about the baby daddy. Lord Jesus. Every time I read baby daddy, and since we all know who her baby daddy is, I just say, Lord Jesus, y'all leave that. Let me tell y'all something. 50 Cent has been super, super quiet outside of that initial day when he posted Ernie and Bird in lingerie. Diddy has been really quiet. And I think I'm sorry, not Diddy. 50 has been really quiet. And I believe he's been really quiet probably because the feds told him you don't want to get mixed up in this. Don't be out there posting all this stuff on social media, especially since she's supposed to have anonymity, or his lawyers may have even advised him. If Diddy wasn't, I keep calling him Diddy. If 50 Cent wasn't such a troll, I would love to think that he stood down because they do have an 11-year-old son. And that's old enough to kind of know what's going on, to even maybe be on social media himself or have friends on social media. So it would be nice for 50 not to add to all of this toxic, nasty ish, considering that. But here we go, mentioning the baby daddy. Okay, so the defense attorney says, that Combs wrote, sorry I didn't take you on trips. I was tripping about the baby daddy. You and KK would have talked yourself into paranoia. You did not get along with KK. She said, I didn't. Defense attorney then says to the jury to put the headphones on and press play. Excuse me. Jane is handed the headphones, and defense attorney shares one with Diddy. Okay, there's a pause there. You mentioned OnlyFans here. As at that time, you'd been earning from it for about 4 or 5 months, right? Jane said yes. Did you ask him why he could not balance things like the hotel nights and the private travel? She said yes. And you wrote, did the other girls just pressure you more for trips and I did not? I just want to know where I went wrong. There she go again. There she go again. And I think he told her in part too, what his truth was, that he maybe didn't take her out in public as much because he knew who her baby daddy was. And I think he may not have wanted that amount of heat. Maybe he just knew he would enjoy doing the things he was doing to his baby mama, but without, not necessarily with all the heat that would come from being so public with her. Because 50 was not going to sit on the sidelines for all that. He would be trollish about it to some extent. Okay. So the defense attorney said, Combs said, that is my friend. I was okay with where we should stop. Now press play and stop. Okay, that's something for the recording. You said we broke up and I went to one birthday party, not with the rapper, just with my friend. Not with the rapper, just with my friend. Not with the rapper, just with my friend. And if his girlfriend or wife, whoever this rapper is, if this girlfriend or wife is Jane's friend, I cannot imagine that Jane in real life would be friends with Beyonce. This is me speculating. I don't know these people. So I'm just going by what we perceive based off of our public perception of them. But I cannot see Jane and Beyonce being friends. Now, if this was Jay-Z on this, perhaps, and he had some other woman with him who was about doing this kind of stuff, maybe she and Jane could be friends. Could she have been a friend to Lauren London? I don't know. I tell you what, though, the research is gonna go down. The research is gonna go down. Because we're gonna know who this rapper is. I'm sorry. It's just too late. You can't get the genie back in the bottle. People are going to figure it out. Defense attorney said, you wrote here that I don't even have anything postable. You meant for Instagram? She said, I did. You also wrote about your child's father saying, I'm in my late 30s. I don't have time. Oh, Lord. Was that last part about your child's father? She said, yes. You wrote here that I just wanted to travel with you. She said, yes. Then you sent a clown emoji and said, if I effed more, I could have gone on trips. Defense attorney says, so when you went to Miami, did you book the Four Seasons yourself? She said, that's right. And while there, you used drugs, had fun, danced. She said, yes. Would you say you were finally being treated the way you always wanted, like a princess? She said, yes. Now, did y'all, let's take that in for a moment, okay? Because I already told you, in my opinion, as it relates to these freak offs and hotel nights, Jane is nobody's victim. Jane just simply wanted to be first on the roster. She got mad every time she felt somebody else was ahead of her, whether it was Gina, whether it was Young Miami, whether it was Cassie, whether it was some other girl he was on a raft with on the river. Gina just wanted to be first. I'm sorry, not Gina, Jane. Jane just wanted to be first. This defense attorney just said to her, when you went to Miami, did you book the Four Seasons yourself? Jane said, yep, sure did. And while you were at the Four Seasons in Miami, you used drugs, had fun, and you danced? She said, yes. Would you say you were finally being treated the way you always wanted, like a princess? Jane said, yes. Soak that in. Soak that in. Okay, Sandy, rein it in. Let me continue. Did Mr. Combs, Mr. Combs, I guess he meant tell. Did you tell Mr. Combs that you missed Paul? She said, I had by then taken ecstasy, but yes, I did. Girl, don't play. Don't play, because you were down with this stuff before you even took an ecstasy pill. You already done testified about that to us. And I think Paul is also one of Diddy's trainers who also participates in these hotel nights. You reached out to Paul. Did he visit you a few days later at the 2-star? She said yes. Did being with him again feel good, like a reunion full of love? She said it did. Where's the force? Help me now. Where's the force? Where's the coercion? You reached out to Paul. Did he visit you a few days later? She said yes. Did being with him again feel good, like a reunion full of love? She said it did. Now, how did the defense attorney know if she worded that shit that way, that she would stand on that stand right there, sit there and say, yeah, it did feel like love? The defense attorney said, why did you nickname yourselves Kobe, Jordan, and Shaq? Why did you choose Kobe for yourself? Now, see, now I'm saying flag on the play now. Flag on the play. Now, when this was happening, I would have to check my dates. I'm thinking, well, I don't know if Kobe was still alive at this point. Let me not think about it. Okay, moving right along. Why did you nickname yourselves Kobe, Jordan, and Shaq? Why did you choose Kobe for yourself? She said, because I saw myself as the best. Y'all hearing this right here? Y'all hearing this? And why call him Jordan? Because he's the best too. You know, Diddy was Jordan. Diddy was Jordan. And then there's the Pamela Anderson Mellons. Okay, but before we go back up to that, let me just tell y'all, in case y'all missed it. She testified earlier that this whole little trio between her, Paul, and Diddy was a trifecta. And in that trifecta, similar to what she just said, Diddy was Michael Jordan, she was Kobe, and Paul was Shaq. You got Shaq in your SEX fantasy. Y'all on some stuff, okay? So the defense attorney said, and then there's the Pamela Anderson Mellons. And what did you say in that message? Jane said, I wrote, you are definitely my Michael Jordan, and I am Kobe. Detox weekend. Defense attorney, you text, good morning, handsome. He asked, can you please find a therapist? Jane said, yes, we loved each other, but it was a toxic relationship. Yeah, you got that right, sis. So that's why I'm like, I don't even know why you up here on this stand. I don't know what you're supposed to be doing, because out of all this testimony that you done gave, one thing you have made quite clear, and I hope it's quite clear to the jury, you, my dear, are not a victim. Now, I'm not, when y'all, if you got some more to say about this, y'all putting hands on each other, that could be a whole nother thing. But as it relates to these hotel nights and these freak off moments, girl, you were nobody's victim. You batshit crazy. He batshit crazy. Y'all batshit crazy together. Okay? But I digress. Let me go back to the testimony. It seemed like Mr. Combs was talking about ending things, right? She said, yes, it felt like he was proposing a breakup, and I was just listening. How long did that conversation go on? She said about 8 or 9 hours. Whoa, now you got somebody talking to you 8 or 9 hours about breaking up. Hey, are you being held against your will? Are you being forced? Because every time you have testified, Jane, Let's talk to her like she here. Every time you have testified, Jane, over these what is this? Day 5? Day 5 or day 4 with you, Jane. Every time Diddy wanted to break up with you told him, I don't want to break up. Every time he would suggest breaking up, you never wanted to break up. So here again, the defense attorney said, and you were okay with breaking up with, okay, let me back up. During those days, you two were taking drugs and having sex, correct? She said, yes, but there were no entertainers involved. They also called the S workers entertainers. And you were okay with breaking up? When exactly? She said, once I saw he was in Wyoming with another woman around the 4th of July, 2024. Jane, you were not okay with breaking up. We already know your MO. I'm sure it's going to come out in the rest of this testimony, so I'll keep going. What did you do then? I blocked him and everyone around him. But you later reached out again? She said, yes. See what I'm saying? Girl, you didn't want to break up. Stop playing. Yes, later that month when I found out his mother was sick. Oh, how convenient. Just, I'm sick of Jane, y'all. I'm just sick of Jane. I am sick of Jane. Okay. So things ended on a good note, right? The defense attorney asked. She said, yes, they did. All right. Defense said, no further questions. Okay. Woo. Does that mean we are getting close to the end of getting Jane up off the stand? Okay. So the prosecutor, I know, of course, they're going to redirect and let's see where they went. Okay. The prosecutor says the cross argued that, oh, okay, now this is the prosecutor just talking to the judge. The cross argued that Jane had a motive to lie. They've tried insinuating that Jane has been coerced to try to correspond with the government's theory. Jane testified on the stand for days after getting immunity. She hasn't tried to get a payday. So what they're talking about here is the defense attorney asked Jane while she was on the stand, has she been given immunity? She said yes. And she said, they asked her something like, so as long as you tell the truth, you won't get in any trouble. And she said yes. And the defense said, well, who determines if you're telling the truth? And Jane was like, the government. So that is what the defense attorney did set that up for the jury to say, hey, take what she says with a grain of salt because she's already signed some paperwork with these people over here. And if she doesn't say what they expect her to say, especially after all of their meetings and their coaching, she could get herself in a world of trouble. So just keep that in mind, jury. Okay. Let's see. How long? About a half hour. Let's skip through all the legal stuff with the judge. Excuse me. During the break, Sean Combs was seen wiping his eyes with some tissues before stepping out. Unclear if it's either emotion or irritation in his eyes. Now, what's that about, Diddy? What is that about? You already tried to get your friends exposed. They about to call out all the famous people who were at this party in Las Vegas. So what are you crying about now? I wonder. I really do wonder. Okay, so let's get to the questioning here. All right, so the prosecution pulls up an exhibit and they say, what did Sean write to Paul? He wrote, I'm going to need you to persuade her. Have you seen this before? Jane said no. What was your message to Paul about the trip to Turks? I said, I'm not a robot, just exhausted, hungry, and in pain. What did you say next? That being insulted over the bracelet and pressured to perform really broke me. One of the things that Jane was also upset about, she saw that some woman Diddy was dating had on a necklace that matched the bracelet that he had bought for her. So she, that made her upset. Again, it's about the women. It's about the other women for Jane. Did you say anything else? Yes, I said that in that room, I felt like a hoe. Well, no. I'm going to continue. What happened after that? He brought up the love contract. He was great at showering me with affection, but it came with episodes of actual exploitation. And y'all, I'm saying things that way because this is YouTube and they get funny about certain things. Jane said, I learned to separate the good from the bad. The prosecutor said, in May 2021, did you ask him to use a condom? She said, yes, at first. Sean resisted, but eventually he agreed. Oh, Okay, let's see. Is she talking about Sean or is she talking about the sex worker? She said, and what about the next time? Jane said he mocked me. So Sean okay, she's talking about the sex workers. So Sean let you use a condom. She said, yes. The prosecutor said, did you ever want to have sex with Cabral? She said, no. Did you fake orgasms with the entertainers? Jane said, yes. I was performing, putting on a show for Sean. The prosecutor said, when did Sean threaten to release video of you? She said, in December 2023, I called KK after that. Regarding Sean's drug use, how did you signal that you were tired? She said, I'd make little faces sigh a bit. KK, we need to see you, girl. We need to see you. And how would Sean typically react to that? He'd just say, push through one more round. How did you try to avoid setting up a hotel night? I would try to steer the evening in a different direction. How many times did you have hotel nights at 200 Mapleton? She said once. What about at 2 Star? 3 times. And at 1 Star, once or twice. Did you ever message the entertainers after your encounters? She said yes. Sometimes I'd send them a nice message afterward. Why did you do that? I didn't want him to feel used. I wanted him to feel good about it. Really, Jane? Really, Jane? Really, Jane? You, as the woman, you have engaged in this lifestyle. That's your choice. But you are the woman in this situation where you have testified that there's up to 1, 2, or 3 men in a given night on these hotel nights y'all having. And after you are used or after you have participated in this event, you then felt the need to send a nice note to the S worker so that they would not feel used. You wanted them to feel good about the freak off. Jane, you are problematic. Prosecutor said, can you remember the exact date of every hotel night you had with Mr. Combs? She said, no, I can't. Do you wish you could? She said, I wish I could forget them. And this message, what is it referring to? Jane said, it's about the all-star role play fantasy. What did you send to Sean? A photo of my bloody tampon. And what did you say along with it? These people are wild, y'all. I mentioned I had arranged childcare and told him you pick. Then things went downhill. I told him I just got my period and that I had managed the first week of school. In 2023, did you start being more outspoken about not wanting to continue with the hotel nights? She said yes, but by then he had started paying my rent. So I had to keep things stable. He had taken control of my livelihood. Girl, let me tell you something. I'm not buying it, Jane. I'm not buying it because at the end of the day, you were not some signed wannabe artist with a 10 record deal, 10 record contract deal, whatever that thing was. Cassie had. That was not you. You said you were making your money off of OnlyFans. If you stopped that, or if you could have went back to that, but you didn't, that was your choice. You said at one point he didn't want you to do it, so you didn't do it because you wanted to please him, and that's when you got into this contract with him, and he was cutting checks for you for other things, furniture, birthday parties, what $40,000 deposit on a house for you that you're renting, all of this. So I'm just you could know. By the time of the sobriety party, how often had he threatened your rent? She said many times. Well, what we also saw you testify to or acknowledge messages is that Diddy told you, hey, we can when you called him complaining about y'all situation, he said, we could break up. And he said he would be willing to pay your rent for an additional 90 days if y'all broke up. You like again, you were, I don't want to break up. So if you are in a situation, and Jane, I don't believe this is your first rodeo because we know who your baby daddy is. If you are in a situation where you are in these transactional relationships with these men, You you can't now get on the stand and try to talk to us and act like you don't understand what it was. Come on now. Was Sean ever affectionate toward you when Anton was in your home? She said, no, Sean was cruel. He was evil. Okay. Talk about it. Let's see what you got to say. The prosecutor said, what did Sean say when he gave you the ecstasy pill? He said, you're not going to ruin my night. Go suck some D. Go F him. Something like that. And how long before that had he put you in a chokehold? Objection. The defense objects. The judge sustains the objection. Did he choke you with his hands or with his arm? Jane said with his arm. And in the shower, how hard did he hit you? She said so hard. Then what did he say? She said he said get in an effing outfit. When you hid for those 2 hours, could Sean have chosen to leave without a problem? She said yes. Did you want to have S with Anton that night? She said no. Who forced you? She said Sean forced me. Why are you testifying today? She said, I received a subpoena. The prosecution said, no more questions. And then the defense gets the recross. Okay, y'all. Can we hurry up and get this lady off the stand now? Okay. The defense attorney said, did you go and pick up Anton yourself? She said, yes. Was it possible for you to leave instead? She said, yes. The only time there wasn't a S activity between you and Anton was in January 2024, correct? She said that's correct. And Anton drove his car into your compound? She said yes. You let him into your place? She said yes, because I was asked to. You lift heavy weights, don't you? She said, I do, but a woman's strength doesn't overpower a man's. Did you hit Sean's head on the counter? She said, yes. And you've seen the video from the Intercontinental? She said, yes. In January 2024, did you refer Cabral to another rapper? Jane said, yes. Earlier, you were asked if you'd give up the money to not have had sex with those men, but you wouldn't give up your home. She said, my child and I live there. It's not that simple. It's hard. Oh, girl, 50 Cent about to make it harder. Okay. The defense said, you receive $5,000 per month of child support. Jane said, yes. And your child's oh boy, turn up, turn up, turn up. Turn up, turn up, turn up. You receive $5,000 per month in child support. She said yes. And your child's father is extremely wealthy, correct? She said yes. Over a span of 3 years, Mr. Combs wired you $150,000. Is that accurate? Jane said, is that all my life is worth over the 3 years? Ah, Jane. Is that all my life is worth over the 3 years? So you believe you're worth more than $150,000. She said, what does he think I'm worth? What's the most you've earned in a single month from OnlyFans? Jane said $50,000, but the income isn't consistent. You said that when you told Mr. Combs you were hungry, it was your way of signaling you did not want to have S. She said yes. But didn't he give you food? She said he knew I meant something else, but he still gave you food. She said yes. Did you tell Cabral that the S you had with him was great? Yes, but didn't you get Mr. Combs a portable TV so he could watch videos of you having S with entertainers? She said it was so I wouldn't have to sleep with other men anymore. Oh, the defense is being too hard on me. I'm about to break. I'm about to break. Cause y'all, I'm trying to look like the victim up here. That was funny about the food part. Okay. And sometimes you both watch the videos without involving other men. She said the whole experience was terrible. That is not what you've testified to, Jane. This is the moment where I'm just simply trying to hold Jane accountable to what she said. Jane has spoken fondly of these movie nights where they watched their freak off videos. That was their movie night. She's talked fondly about that. And sometimes you both watch the videos without involving other men. She said the whole experience was terrible, but did that happen? Jane answered the judge told Jane to answer the questions directly. She said yes. What did you see as you prepared for the day? What did you see as you prepared for the day? She said, my truth. Did you see the record? Did you see records showing there were times you didn't have hotel nights? She said, lucky me. But those times did exist, correct? She said, thank God. The judge, you better answer the question, girl. Didn't Sean say throughout your relationship that you could leave, that you could break up if you wanted to? He said that, but just because he said it, that's not what he meant. You didn't want to break up with him, did you? She said, no, I didn't. Let's keep it all the way a buck, Jane. Let's keep it all the way a buck, okay? Because you're gonna need some more attorney money. Diddy's paying for your attorney you got right now, but you're gonna need another attorney to battle 50 Cent for this child because it's about to go down. Okay, so the defense said you didn't want to break up with Diddy, did you? She said, no, I didn't. Defense attorney said, how did it feel when you saw that Sean wrote to Paul? How do you think it would make someone feel? Please just answer the question. Now that I've seen Sean's message to Paul, I guess it's likely I did have a hotel night. Yes. Okay, let's see where we went from there. So you're changing your testimony? Oh. She said, now that I've seen Sean's message to Paul, I guess it's likely I did have a hotel night. The defense attorney said, so you're changing your testimony? She said, no. The defense said, no further questions. Redirect. The prosecutor gets back up. What violence had Sean done to you before asking you to pick up Anton? The defense objects. The judge overrules. Jane said, he slapped me. No further questions. The judge said, thank you, Jane. Jane goes to hug the prosecutor and defense attorney Tenney before leaving the courtroom. Jane, get up. Jane, get out the courtroom. Get out the courtroom. Before you leave the courtroom, you're going to go over there and hug the attorney for the prosecution, and you're going to hug the attorney for the defense. Girl, bye. Girl, bye. Because with how you move, we don't know what that's about. Don't be too touchy-feely leaving the courtroom. Just leave the courtroom. All right, let's see what they talked about afterwards. Probably not much. The jurors leave. We need rulings for Mr. Sankar's summary charge judge. I have a letter from yesterday. There is some discussion going on about maybe getting rid of one of the judges. And from what I understand, jurors. And from what I understand, it's a black male juror. These messages fall within the scope of each employee or agent's responsibilities. The conversation includes the defendant KK, Fahim, and Robin, his accountant. We will redact the initial message regarding the Maybach truck. Can we shorten the exhibit? Okay, flowers is slang for marijuana. First time we're hearing that. There's also a message about paying Guido. He was a drug dealer. We've already introduced the other 49. Okay. Who will testify about the meaning of flowers? We have 2 witnesses lined up. Judge regarding exhibit, blah, blah, blah. Yes, D-Rock, Fahim, and the defendant himself, he once counted $1 million in cash by hand. Court resumes tomorrow at 9 a.m. Recap. Okay. Well, y'all, that was a lot. That was a lot. I think the defense, before they could say goodbye to Jane, I think they tried to shred her. I think they definitely tried to shred her. Before we leave, though, I want us to take a look at, hold on, let me get to it here. The live updates on CNN. And the reason why I want us to look at that is just because it goes into a little bit about the whole thing around whoever this rapper is and the girlfriend. All right. So the defense attorney revisited the January 2024 Las Vegas trip. Jane, one of Sean Diddy Combs' accusers testifying under a pseudonym, confirmed that she went on the trip with her friend and that they flew on a rapper's private plane. She said Combs was unaware of the trip because they were on a break at the time. The defense attorney asked if the rapper was an icon in the music industry and very close to Combs, and Jane agreed. She confirmed the trip was for the birthday of the rapper's girlfriend or wife. You see how they're being very careful with that wording, with the girlfriend or wife. All right. Then Jane continued to testify that she and Combs both knew before January 2024 that the entertainer Antoine, whom she and Combs hired for hotel nights, would also travel and spend time with that rapper and the rapper's significant other. Antoine had told Jane and Combs. Jane said she was a little bit surprised to see Antoine at a dinner for the birthday of the rapper's significant other, but no one asked how they knew each other. Later that night, 7 or 8 people were in a hotel room watching Antoine have sex with a woman on the bed. The rapper, who Jane said she knew from afar, flirted with Jane in the hotel room, and he said something like he thought I was beautiful and always wanted to blank me. Jane also confirmed when asked that at some point she flashed her breast around the group in the hotel room. She said it was an in the moment thing. Jane, we got to go through that. Under pseudonym, testified that while they were in the hotel room, the rapper and his partner asked her if she knew anybody else in the lifestyle. She said she reached out to entertainer Sly because at the time I thought Sly was a safe person to recommend. Defense attorney asked Jane why the couple asked her. She said that it was possible they already suspected she and Combs had been involved in similar activities, or they could have just picked up that energy from me. Jane said, "How they picking up that energy, Jane? What you doing?" Okay, so all the rest of it is I'm just scanning through to see if there's anything that we might want to touch on before I end this live. Another woman in. Okay. The one point Combs couldn't. Okay, y'all fighting. What else going on? What else going on? Oh, I had just reached my breaking point. Okay, Jane. All right. I am just scanning. Jane recalls incident, drug use, love fest with another man during the Miami trip. Last time saw before his arrest. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Let me go up to the final one. And just see if there's anything worth noting. Uh, let's see if we know who they're talking with tomorrow morning. The prosecution and defense will return to court tomorrow at 8:30. Testimony is expected to resume at 9. Judge said he needs some time to decide whether the prosecutor could show jurors a text from 2015 that Diddy sent to a security guard. The text recounts a violent incident between Combs and Gina that the security guard says would get him arrested, even if she begged the police not to do it. Prosecutor Christie confirmed that Gina is identified as the third victim in the indictment tied to alleged violent acts. Slavic also said there are records putting Combs, Gina, and the security guard in Atlanta at the time to corroborate messages. The defense attorney accused the prosecution of trying to get 2 bites at the apple because Gina isn't expected to testify. Where's Gina? Is Gina hiding? Did he cut her a check before all of this got started? And Gina's somewhere on the island right now trying not to be bothered until this thing is over. Where's Gina? All right, y'all. So that wraps up day 22. Jane is finally off the stand after what, 4 or 5 days? Thank God. I'm out because I was over Jane. Jane, as it relates to these freak offs, like I said, she's nobody's victim. Nobody's victim. Jane's biggest issue was the women that she felt Diddy was putting before her, not the freak offs themselves. Jane is batshit crazy. Diddy is batshit crazy. They're both toxic. They're also both freaks. They also both put their hands on each other. Okay. I'm not excusing how excessive Diddy got when he punched her back after she slammed his head into a marble table, but I'm saying they fought each other. Okay. She claims that was the only time they got into something physical, which I think is kind of strange considering how Diddy's been kicking ass. Okay. So but the biggest thing I think to come out of today is the fact that Diddy's team wanted all the celebrities named who were a part of that hotel room freak off in Las Vegas in 2024. The one he wasn't a part of, but Jane went to it with another rapper and his girlfriend and or wife. And it was implied that they're also a part of the lifestyle. So I know the internet is going crazy right now. But anyway, thank you all for hanging in. Thank you all. If any of you came back to this live after I lost all my connectivity earlier today and had to start over. So thank you. Please thumbs up the live, drop a comment. If you're not a subscriber already, please subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate your support. I'll be back here tomorrow streaming live with the Diddy trial. And I might be back later live on this channel tonight because Kendrick, switching gears here. Kendrick Lamar is in Toronto tonight. And from what I understand, Drake is up to some bullshit with Kai Cenat. And so Cenat, whatever. Now I like Kai, but now if you are trying to get with Drake to cause some problems for Kendrick, I ain't gonna like you no more, Kai. But anyway, that's another story for maybe later on this evening. Thank y'all again. And until the next time, bye y'all.